All right, you're most welcome back. Thank you very much indeed for making it or keeping it locked here on Hello Nigeria with Wazobia Max. Now, earlier on we mentioned that we will be speaking to have a very interesting conversation with two very important people in the studio at the moment. They are vegans, and I know that that's not, I say they're Martians or they're from Venus, but they're actually Nigerian, they're healthy, they're hale and hearty, and are here to speak to us about living life as a vegan, what it means to be a vegan in recognition of World Vegan Day. Now, to speak to us on this, we have BOLANILE OLATUNJI, a vegan, as well as TEMITOPE, who is a vegan as well as a yoga instructor. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and most importantly, pay attention to some of the things you might hear, and it will certainly benefit you. Hello, TEMITOPE. Hi, BOLANILE.
Hello.
Thank you
Hi,
for joining
how are
us.
you? Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. All right, now the first question, very obvious, that we will be asking, what does it mean to be a vegan? Now we hear vegetarian, we hear vegan, we hear people with particular choices of diet lifestyles. What does it mean to be vegan, and what are the differences?
Well, many people are more familiar with vegetarians, yes, but vegans are similar in the fact that they consume a plant-based diet, but they do not consume any animal products or byproducts. That includes dairy, so the milk, the cheese, the butters, and also no eggs, no honey. And it's more than just diet, no honey at all.
Because it's a byproduct of bees.
Bees,
oh,
exactly,
wow,
because of bees. And so it's not just the diet and what you eat, but it's also an ethical lifestyle. So you want to cause least amount of harm and be more compassionate as well. So you have concerns about your personal health, the environment, the animals. So it's much more than just what you eat.
Wait, so being a vegan is much more than what you eat.
Yes.
I was going to ask if you had anything to do with religion, because I feel like these bees and their honey, I don't know how important it is to them. It's more important to me than it is to them. So why are we like so merciful, you know?
Right.
Just, is it more for you? Is it more from a religious perspective as well? Or it's something that has to do with your health?
For me, it started with health, and being a vegan it's not a religion at all. But a lot of people, they just look at it, it has spiritual elements, which people can confuse with religion, but it's not religious at all.
Right, and the idea of it being even spiritual elements is very much, it's a very simplistic thing. It's very elementary. The idea that you want to treat others the way you want to be treated. And when you think about things like even bees, it's not so much just that, oh, we're so merciful to them. It's just that, you know, when you take away bees' honey or even their habitats, the way they produce honey in mass amounts, they usually take them out of their habitat. And so they're not out pollinating the actual plants and flowers that they usually do in the ecosystem. And so other parts of the food chain start to be destroyed. And so eventually it comes back to us. It destroys our environment. It makes food more expensive, harder to get, and so it actually does affect us negatively. It's not just the bees. The bees are like a very integral part of our whole ecosystem and our food chain.
So it's beyond what you put in your mouth. It's
Yes.
actually a mindset. It's an ethical thing. It's something that you feel strongly about, and it's your value system. Or is that what it's about?
Absolutely.
Because people need to understand. It's like, why would I want to suffer myself and not eat meat?
I mean, I've tried to go a no-carb diet, and I suffered. Just kicking carbs away. Now this is beyond carbs. You're kicking everything away.
Well, you can eat carbs though, right? Because carbs are usually plant-based.
Yeah.
So it's not like a super extreme thing even. In fact, many of the indigenous African foods are plant-based. If you're looking at yam or rice or, you know, dodo plantain, you know, it's not very far from what we're already doing. It's just being mindful of how we're affecting other beings when it comes to animals and even other humans, right? Because we're all connected. And so it's even, when you say ethical, it's just an idea of thinking about how connected we are to our planet and to these other beings. Like if I do this, how does this affect these other beings? And then how does it affect this other thing and this other thing? We're all very connected.
Definitely, and it's a more sustainable lifestyle as well. So as I mentioned, beyond diet, you could even consider like the energy you consume, the driving electric cars, or just trying to cause the least amount of harm to the environment, to other animals, to other beings.
Okay. Now, I always used to say that I wanted to be a vegetarian when I turned 30, but I just feel like it's something I used to say. I don't know if I really mean it. How do you advise people who want to transition from being normal everyday people to becoming vegans? You know, what are the normal substitutes? So what are the things they're kicking away from their diet, and what are the substitutes that vegans have?
Well, there are plenty of substitutes, but the things obviously you're going to remove are going to be the animal products, the beef, chicken, cow, ram, goats.
So what do you eat?
So there's lots of substitutes. You can do mushrooms. I love mushrooms. Oyster mushrooms, portobello mushrooms are great. There's a product called Veg Meat by Veggie Victory, and it's like meat chunks of plant-based. You can add into your stews. I also actually have a product line I just launched that produces meatless crumbles, which you can add. It's like almost like a minced meat. And I also produce soy-free tofu. So all of these things you can mix in with your fried rice, or you can put into your pasta, your bolognese. So it's just looking at healthier alternatives. And then some meals you actually don't need it. Like if you're having yam and stew, do you actually need to have meat and fish? And you don't need it, you know? So I think if you're eating certain meals like jollof rice and plantain, as long as the meal has a lot of variety, which plants do have a lot of variety, then you won't miss the
If you think about it, I mean, also don't forget beans. When you think about it, we probably all eat maybe, you can count on maybe one hand or two hands how many different types of meat you're willing to even eat, right? But the number of plants and fruits and vegetables you eat, you can't name, you can't even list it. There's much more variety in the plant-based world than there is in the animal-based world, as far as what we're willing to eat, right? If you don't count people who maybe, some people eat dogs, snakes, etc. But let's say it's just beef, chicken, pork, fish. Are there that many more types of animals? That's not a lot of variety. If anything, you would ask, if you just had me only eating meat, I will get tired after 1 week. I've eaten every different type of meat. But with plants, I mean, you have eggplant, you have so many types of vegetables here. I drive through the countryside, the vegetation is lush. You have the, you know, Agbado, they do the fried corn on the side, they do the plantains. It's amazing. There's so much variety.
A lot of varieties you've mentioned. Now, what some people might worry about, like you've said, when we were in school, they taught us the different food groups and how you needed to have a balance on your plate, a balanced diet. Some people might worry that they're not getting their protein, enough protein from their meat-based product, from dairy. You need calcium, you need vitamin D. So those things. So how do you tell people like that you can still have a healthy, I don't want to be eating yam, plantain. So how do you have a balanced diet in one sitting, being vegan?
First, we have to understand that we've been miseducated as far as like what a balanced diet is. The idea that protein only comes from flesh is a lie. Right? All the animals we get our protein from, all they eat is plants. Very rarely do we eat animals that eat other animals. So all the protein's already in the plants. You've probably never heard of someone dying or going to the doctor because of a protein deficiency. Yeah. Same goes with calcium. Calcium does not only come from cow milk, not at all. It comes from a lot of plants too. You can get plenty of calcium from plants and other things, but actually all from plants or plant-based milks. I see a lot of almond milk in the stores here, a lot of soya milk in the stores here, rice milk, oat milk. I've seen it here, And so all those things have calcium as well. So this idea that we need animals to have a balanced food group has been a miseducation.
So you're breaking that myth. It's a myth.
It's
a false narrative completely. You don't need animals for any, there's not one nutrient you need from an animal that you can't get from plants. So plants have that abundance. So you mentioned protein, for instance. Chickpeas is very rich in protein. You have nuts and seeds that are rich in protein. Beans are very rich in protein. Like certain grains, like quinoa, are rich in protein. So you can get a lot of your nutrients from the plants without having the negative effects that you get from animals.
All right. Let's talk to Olatunji for a bit. TEMITOPE, I beg your pardon. Yoga. Tell us a little bit about yoga. You're a yoga instructor as well.
Yes, absolutely. I love yoga. Yoga is actually a science. It's an ancient science. That's rooted in ancient India, and it's basically a science of mind, body, and spirit health. Like how to do things, how to be very mindful of the energy you take in, the energy you put out. So you start to pay attention to things. Generally, most yoga tries to get you to a place of stillness, so you can start to notice. So you notice what you eat, how that affects you. So now you'll pay attention to when you eat something, do you feel good, do you feel bad? How does it affect your digestive system? You'll even pay attention when I'm on the road. Am I getting angry? Am I feeling something? Am I feeling anger coming on me? Am I being disturbed? So you just slow things down enough to notice things better, and then you can start to proactively react to what's going on around you instead of just reacting. Yeah, so it'll make you less likely to lash out or be angry when someone slams their horn at you. You're not going to yell at them.
I know somebody who needs. The person is definitely
that's yoga.
Probably and I'm wondering if I should tell my African mom that I want to start yoga. My mom would freak out. My African Christian mom, because there's this myth here that when you go into yoga, there's something called, you know, the astral travel, and you're thinking of the fact that it's very spiritual. Your body leaves your mind leaves your body or whatever, and there's some sort of religious side to yoga. Is there? And if there is that the kind of yoga that you practice? So can Christians do yoga?
Absolutely. In fact, I have an African Christian mother as well who's very devoted to her religion, who I've been able to talk to about the yogic practice. And I would say, while you can do yoga and have and just ignore all the spiritual, physical, non-body benefits, you can look at it as a fitness-based practice if you want. And many people, the majority of people do that. But if you do want to use yoga to make yourself more spiritually healthy, mentally healthy, be mindful, I would say you could make you become a better practitioner of whatever religion or whatever ethical system you follow, because you're more mindful. You actually be mindful of what you're doing, right? So it's like it can spill into your life. You can take it there if you want and be like, now that I said this, you know, it's not just Sundays or Fridays when I go to this place where my religion is. My life is spiritual. When people say, is yoga spiritual? Life is spiritual. Everything you do is spiritual. What you eat is spiritual. Right? We talk about spiritual food, like bread and water, right? Everlasting life, you know, have no more thirst. You know, it's a spiritual thing. So to eat food and think that when you're eating and putting something in your body is less spiritual than when you go somewhere and just talk. They're not divorced. Yeah, there's no place that God is not. So in a way, for me, I love spirituality. I love religion. You know, I love God, but I love yoga. And for me, it's all connected. I can't talk to you and be like, this conversation is not spiritual. You're another human being. So I have to see the godliness in you and in these people. I have to see it in my food. I have to see it everywhere. Else I'm just a Sunday Christian or a Friday Muslim. You know, I want to be everywhere with my religion, my God, you know.
All right.
What I'll add to that, because I also practice yoga, is some of the benefits that I practice yoga and meditation, actually, and there are synergies between the two. And I feel like it allows you to be able to be more in tune with yourself and have like more awareness for yourself and life and other people. And for meditation, one of the things I always say is like, people like to pray and you pray to God, but when you meditate is when you're praying to God, you're communicating with God and you're speaking to God. But when you meditate, it's when God speaks to you. So that stillness, which you have in yoga and meditation, is very, very important. So you are able to be centered and be also connected with God. So I think it's not a religion, but it allows you to be the best version of yourself.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Final question. Now, a lot of people wonder how readily available these options are in Nigeria. Now, in other parts of the world, the vegan lifestyle is very easy to adhere to because, you know, to follow, because you have options in the stores. They tell you this has no dairy, it's vegan friendly. But in Nigeria, even when you go to parties, you'll hardly be able to eat anything, because even the puff that is being fried the oil has been used to fry chicken or beef. So you already have that connection in that way. So how do you manage the lifestyle in a cost-effective way? Because we also look at price as well in Nigeria.
In addition to that question, how do you manage being in relationships where your partner is not vegan? So I know someone who wanted to be with someone, and when he found out she was vegan, he said, no, I can't deal. Because how am I going to adjust to your cooking patterns? You're not going to cook and taste food that has chicken. I want to eat chicken. So, yeah.
Those are great questions. Great questions. In terms of where do we shop, or how do you deal with social interactions and places? For me, I prefer to cook my own food just because it's more nutritious. I know what's actually being used in it. I am more particular in terms of the spices and things I use. I don't use any spice cubes because they usually have MSG in it, and it's really bad for the body. So I use fresh herbs, I use sea salt, and that's the way I season my food. So I prefer to cook my own food as much as possible. And when I am not able to cook, there are some restaurants and places that provide plant-based options or things that can be veganized, and you have to be very careful to be able to speak to people who are in the kitchen, or the waiters, and explain to them exactly what it means to be a vegan and what cannot be added to the dishes. Which I've also had instances where I've had food poisoning because of that. Them not understanding what it meant, because sometimes they'll say, oh, crayfish, if you say no meat and no fish, crayfish is there for the seasoning. So they don't understand that that's still an animal and I can't have that, So I think that those things are very important. So I'm very cautious when I go out and what I eat. And so sometimes it's eating at home before, but I mean, if you're absolutely out and you have to eat something, then you look for the safer options. You look for things that are fresher, you know, maybe a salad, maybe fruit, maybe plantain or something like that, you know. And then in terms of the spending and the cost, shopping at the open markets is probably, to me, the cheapest, easiest way to be able to get fruits and vegetables and grains and beans. That makes it more cost effective.
And also remember, it's baby steps too, right? Like for me at least, I didn't go vegan overnight where no animal products ever. Started reducing my red meat and then all meat. And then slowly you start to be more mindful of like, oh, you have butter in there.
So you didn't go cold turkey?
No, not at all. That's really hard.
So real quick, before we let you go, the relationship bits.
Yes. So for me, again, that's also baby step. At first you might be like, oh, no big deal. When you're at the level of vegan that I'm at, or that I'd like to be at, like my significant other, I would only be with a vegan because you know, there's mental stuff, because it's like, if I think, hey, I have compassion for this other being, and you're like, I don't care. I'm like, how can our hearts really connect, you know? But I have friends who are not vegan, but if I'm going to be so close with someone, we're going to be exchanging energy. You know, if I'm not going to eat meat, but you just ate meat and we kiss, how...
You have to have the same foundation. For me, you have to have the same foundation.
I'm glad you're very honest about it, because for me, I don't see how. I mean, you can say, oh, we'll make it work, but the closer you get,
the closer you get.
It's impossible. And as a woman who cooks, for me, I'm never going to cook an animal in my house, and I don't even want it in my house. Even the negative energy of it, I don't want it around me. And the death, you know, and the pain and the suffering, I don't want it even around me. To me, all of that is like bringing negativity into your life. So I could never, like, I can't see myself being married to someone who isn't at least open to the lifestyle and willing to transition.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. We have had TEMITOPE and BOLANILE with us here on the show. Thank you for speaking so honestly, especially from a place of experience about the vegan lifestyle. Now, if you want to join or you want to get more information about this, the social media handles have been scrolling on your TV screen, so please follow them on social media and ask even further questions that you'd like more light on.
Can I add one more thing before we leave? For those who do want more information, the Vegan in Nigeria community, we have monthly meetup events where people can actually come, interact, try the food, watch documentaries, educate themselves. And then there's also a Lagos Veg Festival that's taking place at the end of this month, November 25th, at Echo Atlantic City. So if you want, you can come and get more information and be able to interact.
All right, wonderful. You heard it from BOLANILE, ladies and gentlemen. We have had them speak to us about the life of a vegan. Right now, we had the opening of ASAT by Cooling yesterday, and we're really, really delighted to be showing you some highlights from that event.
To enjoy more of these our Ogbonge videos when you just watch, press this button to subscribe on top of our YouTube page. You go love her.